everybody, and welcome to the Coach V Show. And I really appreciate you tuning in to this episode where we are going to be featuring Brother Rod Brewer, who has been serving my community. I mean, I just don't live here in Elk Grove. This is my home, and it's the same for this brother, Rod Brewer. We'll be talking about his life lessons, behavioral models, and success frameworks that he's learned throughout the years of being in Tulare, excuse me, I keep saying Tulare, FOB, and then going from there and ending up at Sac City, going to UC Davis, right? And then going from UC Davis, just wanting to be a lawyer, ending up in politics. Now he works for Southern California Edison, and then he's also a board member here in Cosumnes CSD, or CSD Cosumnes, for 12 years now, and now running for city council. And really, his story is just one of perseverance, right? And not quitting and staying on task. And then secondly, service, which all of you that are connected with me on social media know I believe this. If serving is below you, life, leadership, and business success will be above you too. Enjoy this episode of the Coach V Show. That's it for me for right now. Now a word from our sponsor.
There's another offload from Tarapolo for the try-scoring superhero. There's the handoff. Good tackle though. Here come the Olympic champions again and stepping through.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering for your consideration life lessons, behavioral models, and success frameworks that either through what I think or what our guests that we feature think, that you subscribe to it should you feel there's value, and deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business. Today here on the Coach V Show, powered by Island City, we are featuring my brother, Mr. Rod Brewer, who lives in the Hampton Village neighborhood of Elk Grove, California. We just don't live here. This is our home now, and is a longtime active member in the community. Rod was elected to the Cosumnes CSD Board of Directors in 2010 and re-elected to that respective position for a second and third term in 2014 and 18. Currently, Rod is a government relations advisor for Southern California Edison. Before working for Southern California Edison, Rod served over 15 years as a policy consultant and legislative aide to lawmakers in the California Legislature and the U.S. House of Representatives, working on a broad range of issues, including agriculture, water, the budget, public safety, transportation, utilities, emergency preparedness, emergency services, conservation, economic development, government oversight, public records, and open meeting laws. In addition, Rod served as an appointed advisory board of the Elk Grove on the Sacramento Regional Human Rights / Fair Housing Commission from 2009 through 2013. And as a member on the Elk Grove Food Bank Services Board of Directors from 2009 through 2011. Rod, a Tulare native, holds a BA in political science, public service from the University of California, Davis. Shout out Ags. Welcome to the show, your boy, Mr. Rod Brewer. Rod, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Brother V. It's good to hear from you and good to see you again. And I'm looking forward to spending this hour talking about what I'm doing, what we're doing, and here in Elk Grove, and how we're going to make Elk Grove a much better place in the foreseeable future.
Very good. I love that. I love everything about this place. Man, we just had my daughter's swim meet. And we used to have these swim championship league meets for our swim league at UOP, at the University of Stockton. UOP, University of Pacific in Stockton, which was a phenomenal place. Oh my goodness, we just drive down the street about 10 minutes from our home here in Elk Grove, and we have a world-class and an Olympic class, really, a facility. You guys have done a tremendous job in leadership. You are a community servant rooted in our community, and you have been serving for so long. Tell us your story and your genesis point, Brother Rod.
My story is I would say it's a lot like how everyone else's story begins as we're working our way up in the ladder of success and building life, relationships, and community. But it's very much rooted here in Tulare.
Mm-hmm.
Tulare is like it because I have give a shout out to my family and friends down there. Is that that's where a lot of my story began. When as a young man, I lost my father when I was 9 years old. Matter of fact, we're coming up on the anniversary of his passing. He was killed in a car accident driving home from work, pulling down a double shift. And a lot of the dynamics that surround that really prepared and had me ready for a career in public service at a very early age, because when you see a lot of the responsibilities that your mom had to go through, because she worked as an industrial nurse, and then after my father's passing, held down 2 jobs at the same time, full-time, doing that, raising 6 kids, and then having the help of my oldest sister, Vicky, raising us as well. It's like you see the value of what is being taught, how our parents were teaching us, how our grandparents were teaching us, learning the values of integrity, hard work, humility, faith. Those are the things that bound me and my brothers and sisters together through those trying years. Because between 78 and 1983, that was no joke. We all had to grow up fast. We had to grow up quick. We had to grow up and we had to learn how to do it together, not be stretched apart. Because tragedies can pull families apart, but that definitely gave us all a gut check, and we tied ourselves together and knew that who we had growing up. We had each other, we had our mom, we had our grandparents, we had our network of uncles and aunts, and they helped bring up some very good young men and young women. And that's a very proud thing to rest my laurels on. But fast forward, I graduated from Tulare Western High School in 1987, moved up here to Sacramento not too long after, went to Sac City College for a couple of years, and then transferred over to UC Davis and applied my trade because I was going to play football, but God had other plans, and had to learn how to be a student, full-time student, and bury myself in the books. I was always a good student, but I was an average student. Mm-hmm. And with that, it's like, but I was able to go into a profession where I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to do something in government. And that's where political science, public service at UC Davis came into play. I didn't become a lawyer, but I got into a good career in politics, learning from one of the best politicians in this area in our lifetime, in the form of Vic Fazio. He was the local congressman that served Yolo County and everything north of Yolo County, and served Solano County. Served that for 20 years, in addition to parts of Sacramento. And I had a great opportunity both in the district and in DC, and learning from him directly how to interact with people, how to make a deal, how to carry yourself as a man, and carry yourself in this political realm. So with that, I came back to California, worked on a friend's state Senate campaign in that same area, and parlayed that with my colleagues into a career in the state capitol for over 12 years. When I came in, learned how to write laws, write amendments, work with other stakeholders, special interest groups, labor, environmentalists, social justice groups, in trying to build good policy that would change the lives of Californians, from racial profiling laws to park bonds to school reform, education reform, agricultural policy, water policy. all that over a 12-year window, in addition to learning and being a consultant for the state on the governmental organization committee on the assembly side, learning how to do gambling, racetracks, emergency preparedness. So all of that work that I learned at UC Davis actually came into play. So where a lot of people say, how it's like a lot of stuff that I do at school don't translate into what I do in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I made sure a lot of that work at Davis translated to the real world and prepared me for my next step, which was being an elected leader here in Elk Grove, because I did my work in the state capitol for a 12-year window. And then I translated that at the same time as becoming a lobbyist for Edison and doing the work for the customers and keeping prices low, keeping costs low, and then bringing in new renewable energy to usher in for a new age. A lot of my work on the Cosumnes Community Services District that serves both Elk Grove and Galt was making sure that the fire department effectively serves both cities and that our parks and recreation network that we have are clean, safe, and destination places for people to go to. Because once upon a time, people were saying that there's not a lot of stuff to do in Elk Grove. This was before I got on the board. But one of the things I championed was the issue of staycations. Staycations. And it was a very new word that I picked up on back in the day. And it's an ability to have people to enjoy their community, but providing stuff that they would like, love, and spread the word on. And that's when I got on the board. Through my leadership, we got through the recession, but at the same time, we were building a network of parks that included spray grounds, dog parks, new facilities for playgrounds, and transforming that network. So now every park you go to on the west side or the east side, you have either a spray ground, a dog park, or a large facility to recreate and play sports, whether it be pickleball or soccer or baseball or softball. One of these parks inside the Elk Grove CSD network has all of those qualities. And it's very, like now, Oasis Park, great example of that. Our most recent park that we put into the city, larger park for community park. And it has all of the bells and whistles that families could ask for. And I enjoyed seeing that last week. And that's complementary to our mothership park, Elk Grove Park, which is perfect for events, tournaments, picnics, you name it. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm very proud to be there, usher in a lot of these changes, and at the same time, have a strong financial fiscal impact for the district where we're seeing a healthy reserve. So if we were to ever get into another recession or any other sort of downturn, we're able to take care of our own business, but also take care of the community at the same time and not feel a missing of the beat.
Wow, that is awesome. What a journey. What a journey that you have gotten from that tragedy to become who it is that you are today, that you and your family, what a journey of struggle and triumph. Let's go to Davis. What years were you at Davis?
So I was at Davis between 1990 and 1994.
Yeah.
Now, there's a funny story during that period because originally I graduated in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
But myself and several thousand of my classmates all received a letter in the mail in August of 93 saying, I don't know how to tell you this, but we need you back for one more quarter. It's not you were deficient in units, but we need you back for one more quarter. And instead of going back in the fall of 93, I went back in the winter of 94 because we all have our quarter systems at UC Davis, as you can attest to.
Mm-hmm.
And I could recall my counselor as I went to go visit him. He blew a gasket. He's like, why are you here? Why are you here, Rod? You had all your credits. You've done all your classes. I have your transcripts right here. You shouldn't even be here.
Right.
you should be in grad school or the workforce or doing a long vacation, but you definitely shouldn't be here. So what we come to find out is that we never really found out the reason why a lot of us were called back, but we went back. It was at the time when when the fees were being raised exponentially, but went in, did our part, went to and got my classes, picked up a couple of minors along the way, and then from there entered the workforce literally, because my first job was with Congressman Vic Fazio, and it started literally the Monday after that winter quarter finished.
Wow. Talk about some of your memorable times while going, because I was a JC transfer. So I came in 99, graduated in 2002, played ball there. And some of my favorite times is just one, like hanging around. As a JC transfer, I was floored that so many people read the newspaper and tried to do the crossword puzzles at the coffee house. Was that like that in the early 90s? I got there in the late 90s.
So early 90s was funny, right? Because the UC Davis that's there now was starting to become that campus.
Yeah.
There were still vestiges of the old UC Davis.
Yeah.
The old Memorial Hall, the old Rec Hall. The library was just new, just built.
Oh, brand new. I love that library. Oh my goodness.
And Toomey Field was used for both football practices and football games.
Yeah, practice games and track.
And so the old UC Davis that I recall, that I'm still very fond when I look back at those years, is really the library and the rec hall. Because the rec hall was cool because it was old school, but it was huge.
Yeah.
And you could basically hang out there, wait in between classes. On weekends, you're basically hanging out, studying, catching up with people if they're not on the quad. And those are things that I remember. It's like my friend had a Honda Elite, and when he wasn't riding around in it, I was riding around in it.
Right.
And so it's like not just riding around in the Honda Elite, but back in the day when you didn't need a helmet and you wore a baseball cap and flip-flops, those are my fond memories of UC Davis.
What about your initial reaction with all the bikes? I was floored. I came from SoCal, and I was like, I've never seen this many bikes going around a turnabout or a street in my life.
Right.
Were you the same?
It's funny because me being a Central Valley guy, and you have to have a car to get around everywhere.
Yeah, me too.
And I had a bicycle, but I wasn't like heavy into bike life.
Yeah.
And when getting to the campus, because I commuted from Sacramento to Davis, so I missed out on a lot of that bike life.
Yeah.
But it was insane. It was insane seeing the bicycles, the roundabouts, and seeing how people were getting from point A to point B in the bikes, and how they were basically jockeying for parking spots so they could get their bikes in the right space so they can get to classes or labs. I still find a good laugh about that every now and then.
So talk about your level up academically. Like for me, I really was a product of my environment because I came with a different mindset about junior college, caring about what I wore. Didn't nobody give a shit what they wore at Davis. They were there. They were eggheads. People were academics. They were studying. They got up, studied. They studied all day. They were great on the syllabus and bringing their blue books for tests, man. My first test, I showed up without a blue book because I didn't even look at the syllabus yet. Holy smokes. Right? Talk about your transition and how you had to level up really quickly and in a really rigorous academic load, being a quarter system. I mean, versus 20 plus weeks, right? We're 12, we were what, 16 weeks? What was it? Our quarter system.
It was like a 12-week sprint.
12 weeks, man. 11 weeks of instruction. 12th week is just all tests, right?
Yep.
How did you navigate that and level up in that?
You know, when I was going to community college, when I went to Sacramento City College, And that's where a lot of my foundation for my education success is rooted, especially in the terms of UC Davis, because I learned from a solid teacher in a college life class. His name is Ed Stupka. So between Ed Stupka and Michael Sias and a broad group of teachers that I took most of my classes from. Some I did double time, especially when it came to math, because my math was not very great at the time. But in Ed Stupka's college life class, I learned all the basics on how to prepare for class, how to go through, whether it be semester or quarter, how to handle and comprehend not only the syllabus, but also how to go through a study period and how to make effective use of my study period. So I owe a great deal of thank you and appreciation and love to Sacramento City College, because their instructors and their professors, they really took the time to take me under their wing, as they did many of their other students, but really impressing upon them. Going to a 4-year college university requires you to level up. It requires you to be a different version of yourself. You can't be the same person that you are in this room talking to me. You have to basically evolve and learn to grow. And you can only learn how to grow on your own. I can only give you the tools, but it's up to you to be successful. And now I got to admit, when I went to Davis first early in, a lot of that study was overwhelming. And I wasn't the greatest student in the world. But along the way, I got a wake-up call and just really went back and dedicated myself to the same teachings and foundations that my Sacramento City College teachers reinforced in me. That's awesome. Did that while working 2 jobs at the same time, as one as a security guard, one as a salesperson at a sports shop, and juggling those were crazy in itself, because some days I'm working the same day at the same time. And I just had to say one had to go on the wayside and the other just is my focus. So doing 2 jobs at the same time, focusing on a full-time load where a lot of us did 15, maybe 18 units.
Wow.
Because the sense of urgency of moving out and moving on and moving up was still a burning passion. And so that foundation really helped reinforce the why I was going to UC Davis, especially being the first in my family to go to a UC, because some of my other family members, they've gone to Cal States. They've also gone to Stanford. There's professors in my family that teach at Oklahoma State and University of Oklahoma. But for myself and my immediate family, I was, especially within my network of first cousins, I was the first to go to a UC. So for me, failure was not an option. I had to make it through.
I love that. And then talk about now, leaving. I mean, you have such a diversity of valuable experience from the state legislature, man, but DC is just a different animal. I've been around there, man, and I'm talking about your access has nothing to do with your own individual value all the time. It has to do with your level of access that says on your card that you're wearing on your suit. Come on. Talk about now leveling up at the state level and then at the national level. I mean, and DC is really a different world. It's on the same planet, but it is just a different world. The capital here in California, I mean, it could be right here in Sacramento, but when you walk into those halls, the etiquette's different everywhere, right? The demands are different everywhere. The relationships and the people don't know you. Talk about that next level up in your career for us and the valuable life lessons you have to offer for us.
It was educational because you run across people from all different walks of life. And you run across tens of thousands of perspectives. where what we see on the news, we see a perspective of Democrat, Republican, red, blue, donkey, elephant. But when you get into Washington, D.C., the culture of D.C., and I was there during the Clinton presidential years, it was coming out of college, doing a couple years in the district office, learning how to work in an office environment with colleagues is one thing, but to work in an atmosphere of colleagues where you know you are in the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you are a junior cub, you're required to act as a bear.
Mm.
And that was a great education. That was a great experience, because when you're around all these different individuals and with the multiple brushes of greatness that you come across, because some days you'll see Senator Ted Kennedy, part of the Kennedy family, Chuck Schumer before he's a senator, Bob Matsui, our other Sacramento Congress member, who served just as long and just as strong as Vic Fazio, my boss. It was a beautiful thing because you got a chance to learn from folks. And then I had like Congressman Ron Dellums down the hall that represented Oakland so proudly for a number of years. Harold Ford from Tennessee. You got a chance to learn from some people. And then Congressman Dingell, who eventually became the Speaker of the House after Newt Gingrich. You have all these people, all these brushes of greatness, but at the same time, there's people who you work with in those offices where you build strong, lifelong relationships with and keep contact with to this day. It's in addition to your colleagues that you worked with in the Fazio family, as we call ourselves. It's a beautiful thing. And it's an experience that was just as valuable as getting a master's degree in college, but it gave you a PhD in handling life and it's done. It was a great foundation for what I eventually did on the state level in the legislature and on the local level as an elected with the CSD and working here in Elk Grove to make this community a beautiful place that it's evolving into.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love how you call it brushes with greatness, right? Where proximity, engagement with people, experiences, and relationships, we grow so much from that. Sometimes even often more than in the academic classrooms. It is where it's just knowledge-based. Versus when you're engaging in that level and the people it is that you're talking have historical significance and influential impact on the world. That is some juice, right? Come on, add on that, touch on that before we move on. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but I would be remiss if, with the names that you mentioned that I have known and heard, whispered, seen on TV, read in newspapers. To be around that type of level of person, I already know you're an amazing person. That's why you're on the show. But then it just makes even more sense of your aptitude for conveying words that are more specific and more appropriate than a lot of other professionals. I know a lot of professionals that make millions and billions, and I know professionals that are great on the athletic fields, but that's what's really attracted me to you is your ability to do that. And as you're speaking about that, I was like, no wonder I love this guy, man. No wonder I love this guy. You want to put a cherry on top of that at all?
That I will share a story with you.
Please.
And I think it really encapsulates my time on the Hill and my time working on the federal level, that really explains a lot of my time and explains the fun part of what I did in addition to the real work that I put in. So in 1996, there was the Clinton-Gore re-election campaign, and they had to go through New Hampshire to start the process to get reelected, to get the electoral votes, or at least know where your electoral votes are. And as a young volunteer with a lot of young Capitol Hill volunteers, we all caravanned on a bus, left Washington, D.C., and around 6 in the evening, arrived in Manchester, New Hampshire at midnight. And we slept at a YMCA. We had sleeping bags. If you didn't have a sleeping bag, you should have known you should have brought a sleeping bag, because no one's staying at a hotel, because there's not a lot of hotels in New Hampshire. But the volunteer work that we did was really nice, because it was boiled down to several things that campaigns have always relied on: walking in neighborhoods, knocking on doors, and talking to people about your candidate and about the campaign that you're there for. The second one is holding up signs for visibility. So when people drive down the street, you're standing at a street corner, if not the middle of a street median, holding up signs, acting a fool, but they're seeing you supporting your people. In this case, President Clinton and Vice President Gore. And so as we did all of that, we found ourselves at the University of New Hampshire later that night for a rally. Everyone's pumped up, everyone's stoked out, and part of my detail as a volunteer was to make sure that people got from campaign headquarters to the college and back. And when the last person left, you better get yourself on a bus or a car to get back to the headquarters. It was snowing in the middle of February in New Hampshire. And as I helped the last person get on the bus, I had to go grab something else as part of our work that we did that day.
Don't tell me you got left behind. Oh my goodness. Keep going.
The bus left. And there was myself and 6 other people that needed to get back to the campaign office. And so we waited there for an hour. And for me, never being in snow up until that point was definitely, especially Northeast snow, because Northeast snow is not like DC snow. There's degrees to this cold. I was freezing. I was freezing my behind off. Matter of fact, that's probably why, as part of that process, I started out in DC at 242, nice, buff, lean. When I left New Hampshire, I know I lost 15 pounds. But the cool part about it is, like, so when we got picked up and went back to the office, and the greeting party consisted of, at the time, Hillary Clinton, George Stephanopoulos, Cav Carville, who was like his guy at the time, and a couple of other notable faces that you see on TV today as news talking heads. A lot of them were advisors with the Clinton administration. And they're all coming in and giving you a hug and giving you a dap and saying, "Are you okay? Do you need any water? Can we get you a blanket? Are your toes cold?" They were giving us the 5-star treatment.
Wow.
They gave us the 5-star treatment. They let us feel like we were part of the group, part of the family. Huge thanks for serving that weekend. But it was that was a fun weekend. But it was a great takeaway that no matter where you are on the political ladder, you always treat your volunteers like they are part of the family, like they belong, because they're taking time out of their schedule. They're not being paid for what they do. They're doing it because they believe in you, the candidate. They believe in you, the campaign. And that was a great takeaway, because every campaign I've worked on since then, I really went out of my way to make sure that all my volunteers that worked under me as a campaign manager or as a candidate felt that they belonged and that they were an integral part of everything I did as part of my campaign journey.
What a story. What's up, Hillary? Thanks for the blanket, Hillary. Thanks, George. I appreciate you, George. I'm out. My name's Rod. That's awesome. So talk about from there, and then now let's fast forward to, how long you've been here now, how many terms in Elk Grove. And let's start with why Elk Grove, and then let's start talking about your service in Elk Grove. Why Elk Grove, Rob? Because you've told me the story, and I've been so enamored by it, right? It's like, man, you know, I've been looking around, and this had the makeup of what I was looking for. Why Elk Grove, Rod? Did you choose this place to be home?
When I moved back from DC, Coach, because for many years we lived in Sac. When I moved back, my mom had already lived in Elk Grove, but lived by Sheldon High.
Mm-hmm,
and we were looking for our forever home. We weren't looking for another place to rent because we did a lot of that. We wanted to have our forever home. We just sold our house in Tulare with the money in our hand and with the resources that all of us pulled together. We were looking for a place that we really want to live in, but where we lived, because we're still small town rural people at heart, and we wanted a place that reminded us of Tulare in every way, shape, and form. Elk Grove was growing, but it reminded us of Tulare.
Mm-hmm.
The feel, the people. When we have conversations with folks, even to this day, is unique in that respect, because I say Central Valley folks and Tulare folks just have a different lingo. We speak English, but we're different. We're just different. And a lot of that is because, like my grandfather, my dad's dad, he came out here from Arkansas during the Dust Bowl era as a farm worker, trying to make a better life for his family and eventually bring his family out here. And he brought my dad's older brother with him. And they worked as farm workers up and down the Central Valley. So from Tulare County to Tuolumne County, all the way up to Colusa County, we did the work and toiled in the soil and parlayed that into a convenience store and a car wash in Porterville up until my grandfather's passing in the early 70s. And that's a beautiful success story that probably belongs into a mini series all its own. And my mom's dad, he was a farmer. He was a small farmer, half Native American, half African American. Grew up on an Arizona reservation, and made it and built his own farming stake in the world, and was very highly respected in Tulare. And so when you bring both of that together, you know the work of hard work, integrity, faith, love, and commitment. But Elk Grove had so much of that where we purchased our house was very intentional, because it was right on Highway 99, and it allowed us to drive home and visit family within a span of 2.5, 3 hours.
Right.
When we need to be down there. And there were a lot of times we were down there like every other week. And there were times where we were down there in less than 2 hours and 30 minutes, because having that being on that artery of Highway 99 for us was very important. Not only to go to work in Sacramento, but to also be near our loved ones as well.
Right. At a time too, there was no Laguna and Elk Grove exit off the 5, right?
No.
That's right. That's right. And then so talk about now your first run and your stab at now, not you volunteering or working on someone else's staff, is now Rod trying to take and make his first steps into serving the community as Rod Brewer. Talk about that with CSD.
Definitely. In all transparency, I ran in 2008 and lost.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Real talk, right? That's some real talk.
Because even though I was known in the Capital community, I was a person that was going home, going to work, going home, going to the grocery store, and no one in Elk Grove knew who I was. In my mind, I thought people knew who I was, but they didn't know who I was. But I ran my campaign, and I got out, got a chance to know people, got a chance to know what their issues are. And I think everyone was very high on my campaign, but you had 8 people running for 3 seats. And all three of your incumbents were running.
Mm-hmm.
And then one eventually dropped, one eventually lost, and the other 2 incumbents won. And that was an education, because there was more than just putting your name on a ballot. You had to get out and know people. You had to be entrenched in the community, and you really had to know who those people in the community are, because what you know is one thing. Who you know would get you in office. And so I was very fortunate to learn from some good people, like a Guy Rudder, Michelle Orrock, whose families have been in part of Elk Grove families for a number of years. Gil Albiani, another person that's a titan in Elk Grove community with his wife Kay. Everybody knows who they are, and everyone knows their work in their space and commitment to Elk Grove. So learning from them and befriending them and getting involved with the city council with the help of Gary Davis and Jim Cooper and Sophia Sherman and Pat Hume. It's like with their help, I was nominated to be an appointed member to the Human Rights Fair Housing Commission, where I got to learn a lot of issues that are really affecting the lives of folks in Elk Grove, especially on the lower socioeconomic end of life here in Elk Grove. Because at the time, not only was housing affordable for large homes, but also apartments. But at those apartments, there was a lot of stuff going on where a lot of like landlords felt like they had the discretion to evict people and not have any repercussions. But the Human Rights Fair Housing Commission, not only did they help keep people in their homes, but they help people keep living in their apartment complexes with a degree of dignity and not feel like they're being harassed. And so very valuable with that. And my longtime friend, Bobby Singh Allen, who I met at Sacramento City College, who I reconnected with through the 2008 campaign after we both, and her husband, Jake, we all met at the same place at the same time, but we all went our ways because of life. We reconnected. Bobby was already a volunteer on the Food Bank Board of Directors, and she worked to get me on the Food Bank Board of Directors with the help of Marie Giacchino, the executive director for the food bank. And I was able to do some good work in heightening and building up the profile of the food bank and having a very good run there, letting people know that I was a person of substance, but a person of service. And those 2 experiences, still doing what I'm doing, helped in a major way, helped me get elected to the CSD board in 2010. And that was at the beginning of the downturn. I was not planning on running for the CSD board. I was pretty much content with being a Capitol staffer, preparing for life as a lobbyist, and doing my work with the city commission and the food bank board. Those were good enough for me. But as the CSD and the rest of the region was experiencing the recession, and then reading in the Elk Grove Citizen what was going on at CSD and how they had to use reserves to keep themselves funded, I had a meeting. My first meeting was with Bobby Singh Allen. My second meeting was with Supervisor Don Natoli. And that's what, and just learning more about their perspective of service and what it means to be involved in your community. That was the light, and former Senator Dave Cox before he passed away. All those things were rounding out and saying, the sign is there. You need to take your shot now, because if you don't, you're going to regret it. And that's what turned my head back into the direction of serving as an elected. And months later, I got elected to the board, not only elected to the board, but as the top vote getter for that election.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. So now you're on a new venture. There's some seats opening for Elk Grove City Council. We're districting now, maybe a couple of elections now. Has it been districts for a couple of elections now?
In 2020, Elk Grove just opened up the by-district process.
Yeah, 2020. I remember that. Yep.
And for many years before that, Elk Grove, to be on the city council, was from district. You could live in the district. You have to live in the district you represent, but you're being voted on at large by the entire city. Now the process has changed.
Now it's changed. Yep.
Those who were the place where you live, you must run out of that district and serve that district. And the people in turn, instead of the whole city voting for you, now the people who live within the four walls of your city district vote for you now. Very
good. In that, you're making a run. Well, what's next for Rod Brewer?
Well, right now I've enjoyed my time on the CSD board, where we've been able to make a lot of change in the lives of people that live in Elk Grove and Galt. We have 8 firehouses. We're about to build a 9th over by the New Sky River Casino off of Fire Poppy Drive, or Poppy Ridge Lane. It's called Poppy Ridge Lane. So we have a new firehouse going there. We're still serving the community, still serving it strong. And as I look at my 12th and final year on the CSD board, there is an opening on the city council, City District 2, that covers everything from Grant Line Road, bordered by Calvine, bordered by Elk Grove Florin Road, and then everything south of Elk Grove Boulevard, covering Elk Grove Park, which includes Hampton Village, Old Town Elk Grove, East Elk Grove, the rural community, in addition to the new development through redistricting, the Southeast Policy area that is bordered by Camera Road, which is the extension of Grant Line Road, Bruceville Road, and then Whitelock Road going back to Highway 99. So that's the new City District 2. Pat Hume, who has served as our city council member.
He's moving on to supervisor, huh?
He's running for Sacramento County supervisor, has made the top 2. So this presents an opportunity for myself, where I bided my time, developed a lot of good initiatives, and really helping Elk Grove become the community that it's been. It's time for me to move into the city council. And as LeBron James once said, I'm moving my talents to South Beach. I'd like to move my talents over to the city council and really make Elk Grove the community that we all are proud of, but would like to see it become over the next 12 years, because there's a great opportunity to get a smart community done right, but you only have one chance to do it. And with the work that I've been doing on the CSD board all these years, and with my wealth of experience on the federal, state levels, I feel that I'm ready, and I'm very excited in taking this next leap of faith into the Elk Grove City Council.
Very good. And what's your why? What's your why behind your belief to bring value, elevate, progress, and level up District 2, as well as collectively all of the districts that make up our home, Rod? What's your why behind all that, please?
Before I do that, I'm going to turn on this light in here so people can see me, because as the sun's starting to set.
Yeah. Please,
right back.
Please do. Yep. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Coach V Show. We are featuring Brother Rod Brewer, who has been serving Elk Grove and the CSD district for so many years, and now moving over to City Council. And he's going to share with us his why for why District 2 and what value he feels that he can bring in terms of that why to bringing the best and elevating his district of Elk Grove, and then collectively with all the other districts that make up the city that both he and I live. Brother Rod, please.
Thank you, Coach V. Elk Grove is a very unique place, and the east side that I live on is even more unique because this is the original. When we talk about Elk Grove, everything east of Highway 99 is the original Elk Grove.
Real talk, yeah.
And you have a rural community, you have Old Town Elk Grove, and you have Elk Grove Park, and the areas are very different from each other.
Right. Yeah.
The politics, the people, even though you have the families have a lot of things in common, the politics, the people, and the dynamics are all different. We have what we call a rural community, and that rural community was designed to stay rural, even with all the urban and suburban growth that is growing out here. There has to be a person, a leader that draws harmony between those two existences, and know that while the city develops, we need to keep every semblance of Elk Grove's original community intact, and we need to make sure that as the city progresses, we still have agriculture to move, because agriculture is the reality that keeps all of us fed, keeps all of us happy, keeps all of us healthy. If we did, it's like the Central Valley as a whole is pretty much the breadbasket for the world. And different parts of the Central Valley have different unique qualities. And Elk Grove contributes to that because you have a lot of ranches, state-of-the-art ranches, wineries, dairies, and all the while people still have an eye on the needs of water, how water gets allocated. Because here, water's relying on all that because we have the Sacramento River, the American River, and the Cosumnes River. And the Cosumnes River has always been alive all these years. I think we've taken the Cosumnes River for granted because it runs up in Rancho Murrieta, runs all the way up into the mountains and up into Amador County. And to know that we have these three rivers that keeps our community sustainable and keeps our agricultural sustainable, we have to do everything we can to keep that together, along with our Old Town Elk Grove, which still has a lot of lively businesses and now is undergoing a new renaissance with restaurants, microbreweries, where we have the most microbreweries in town. At one time we had 7 citywide, 6 of them were on the east side of town. And so now we have more microbreweries that are coming in, wanting to do business, but do business in Old Town Elk Grove. And so looking for ways and working with the business leaders in Elk Grove and Old Town Elk Grove to make sure that we fulfill that mission so people can come on the weekends and enjoy Old Town Square, but they have places to eat at and places to shop, in addition to hair salons, comic book shops. All of that is there. It's just getting people to Old Elk Grove to see that beauty. And so when you balance all that plus the suburban life that is growing in between, you want to make sure you have someone who understands the uniqueness of the area, but you also understand all of the needs, all of the problems, and how to create solutions from those problems. And you want to be that person that can bring all of that together, work with your leaders, and be a coalition builder, and be a coalition builder for good, not just be a coalition builder for your own personal wants or desires. I've lived that. I live that every day. That's who I am. And that's why I feel like I'm uniquely positioned to be the city council member representing this area, because when you're around for 53 years, you see a lot of things. You see a lot of reality. You grow up around a lot of people, and you know the different mores of how to interact with people and how to achieve results. And I believe I'm that individual that's best seated for this District 2 seat.
Very good. Take all of that. Tulare, the tragedy with your father, you guys figuring things out, going to UC Davis, working for some legends in the industry of politics, both on a state level and on the national scene, losing your first run, then now honorably and in a level of excellence serving our community over the past decade plus. And then now with this new vision for your life and your mission, what would be, take a minute or two and tell us what's your message to the world, your district, our city of Elk Grove, and those of you that wouldn't know you that can gain some valuable insight by, hey, this is my message for the world. What would that be, Brother Rod?
My message would be something that would go along the lines of, my name is Rod Brewer. As your elected official on the CSD board for the past 12 years, I have helped develop the network of over 100 parks, build the relationships with the city of Elk Grove to heights that we've never seen before, where CSD and the city are cooperating and working together, where we work closely with the school districts to enhance the quality of life for our students and do so through a network of recreational programs. And all the while have a fire department that not only serves us here in our community and serves it effectively, but do it with a manner of distinction, honor, and pride. And I've been that leader for you and served as a servant leader through these 12 years through humility, faith, integrity, and transparency. And this is the type of leader that I believe that you are looking for in the Elk Grove City Council. I hope I've been that representative to you on the Cosumnes CSD board since 2010, and I really look forward to earning your trust and your vote between October 3rd and November 8th this fall.
That's awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And if you just tuned in, we're featuring Brother Rod Brewer. We've done the majority of this interview and this feature of his life and his success and his triumphs. But now we're going to get down to the Coach V hot seat, where I'm just going to tell and ask Brother Rod to, hey, here's a phrase. This is a question. What comes top of mind? The first thing is, Brother Rod, you come in as someone who's never been here. So I have a lot of clients that visit me here in Elk Grove. Where is the first place that we need to go for fine dining?
Yeah, that's really the hot seat, but I would say Boulevard Bistro in Old Town.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that place is good. Okay, let's go. Hot seat question. Where do I go for the best pho in Elk Grove?
There is a place not far from Savvy Cafe. It's in that same shopping center with the Kohl's and Trader Joe's.
Okay.
And that pho is very, very good.
Next to Kohl's? Oh, I know that one. I've been there. On Elk Grove Boulevard.
Yeah, and I can't name the place. I can't
recall
the place right now. But they're open. Their hours on the weekends are usually open close to late night, and they're open for lunch and dinner. But their pho is amazing.
All right, I like it. Okay, who's your NBA team? Tell me who your NBA team is.
Lakers all day, every day.
Lakers all day, every day. Okay, so the basketball heads are saying that the Sacramento Kings are a shoe-in. I mean, that they're assured that they're going to make the playoffs this year. Who is going to make the playoff? Who's more probable to make? I mean, I think it's like a 20-year drought for the Kings, something like that, right? I'm a Laker guy too. But, man, after not making the playoffs this year, who is more positioned to make the playoffs this year, the Lakers or the Kings?
Yeah, that hurts my soul to even think about that. But I will tell you this: the Sacramento Kings are making waves.
Yes, they are.
They got Mike Brown, De'Aaron Fox, Baby Sabonis, as I call him, because I remember Sabonis' dad, who was
me too.
He was a great. Yeah, his father was a great center. Those two together, Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, blend in with Darian Mitchell. When you add Harrison Barnes to the mix, who's always steady, the mature leader in the locker room, and then you add in Keegan Murray, who was just named the MVP of the Summer League in Vegas.
Yeah,
who was the number 4 draft pick.
That's what they're saying, Rob.
You can't help but have that anticipation for the Kings. There's a different feeling. It's like when Chris Webber, Vlade Divac, Deja Stojakovic, and Dennis Scott, and back then before Bibby, Jason Williams, when they all
vanilla chocolate vanilla. Jay Will.
You had a team right there, but a coach and a general manager. General manager was Jeff Petrie. The coach was Rick Adelman. You have this same feeling with Monty McNair and Mike Brown. Can't put a finger on it. It's one of those things. And if the team adopts what Mike Brown is serving, and he knows what he's talking about because he coached LeBron in Cleveland. He coached David
the Warriors the last couple of years.
Talk to me. So he's coached the Warriors as an assistant coach with Steve Kerr, but he was the defensive coordinator. And under Greg Popovich in San Antonio, he had Duncan, he had Robinson, he had all those guys. And you can't help. You learn from a coach who has that gravitas and knows how to communicate with people and pull the best out of them. Sacramento could be one of those teams making the playoffs this year.
Man, isn't it sad, though, for us Lakers fans that we're talking about the Lakers getting into the playoffs? I mean, man, I'm used to talking about the Lakers winning the ship. I'm just hoping they make the playoffs this year, because –
well, as you know, Laker Nation, V, is like for us, we don't talk about the Lakers unless they're viable for a title.
Yeah, that's right. And they're not, because to me, the clear shoe winner, that's another hot seat question. Who's a clear favorite right now to win the ship in the NBA?
Warriors.
That's it. I agree. And I'm a Laker fan to the end. The Warriors look phenomenal.
But I will say this, because at the end of the day, I bleed purple and gold.
Yep, me too.
And I came out wearing a Wilt Chamberlain t-shirt when I was born. I will tell you this. I have faith in Jeannie Buss.
That's true.
I have faith in LeBron James. They will figure out a way to get into the playoffs because that's all they have to do. Once they get into the tournament, it's a wrap. No one can beat the Lakers in a playoff series. It's always been proven. It's always been a struggle for other teams, but if the Lakers get in, they'll make some serious problems.
I'm going to stay optimistic with you. Yeah, I love that.
Got to keep the faith.
Got to keep the faith. In that, thank you so much, Brother Rod. 30 seconds. What's your final for being on the Coach V Show?
Coach V, I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
My pleasure, bro. Thank you.
We've been friends for a long time, but I really appreciate this opportunity to be on here and talking about what we're doing here in Elk Grove and learning and talking about life, relationships, business, politics. But all this will come together if my people spread the word of what we're doing here in Elk Grove, spread the word of what I'm doing here on the CSD board running for city council. We can make this happen. We can make Elk Grove a great place for people to live, work, and play.
I agree, because that's what Coach V does with my family every single day. This isn't just where we live, baby. This is our home. So thank you for that, Brother Rod Brewer. And thank you to everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Coach V Show, where we featured one of the candidates and the prime candidate in my book who is running for Elk Grove City Council, been serving for 12 years in the CSD. We thank you, Rod, for coming on the show. And Rod and I are not just asking you to consider what it is that we're offering as success frameworks, life lessons, and behavior models for our sake, right? But really for the sake of you being your best, because in doing so, you realize the best of your abilities and that everything that you dream, work, and hope for can be achieved. Because this is how your boy Rod Brewer and your boy Coach V live, all about faith and family, grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next Motivation Monday here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. From your boy Rod, your boy Coach V, one love, mad respect, live it. Until next time, peace.